Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kizer Huldra, which was designed by Mason Hayes. I'm not familiar with Mason, but I wanted to make sure that his name was in this video so you guys knew. Thanks so much to Kizer for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. This knife will be linked in the description. It's the price might actually surprise you. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Overall length of the Huldra coming in at about 7.75, maybe just a hair short. Blade length just a hair short of 3 1/4. Cutting edge about 3 1/16. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others. Up against the 8010 and the 8020.5. This knife is surprisingly a lot closer to the 8020.5, and I say that because for some reason it feels a lot larger than it actually is. I think it's the weird ratios, but just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Whoops, forgot how to deploy the Para 3. Not great as a longtime YouTube knife reviewer. Not a good look. Again, closer to the Para 3 size. Maybe that's just, that's my imagination. It's about right in between, maybe. Slightly closer to the Para 3. Finally, up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. Definitely about the same overall length as the Hogue Deca. How's the action? Well, the pivot action is fine, right? Kizer, typical Kizer quality. They do a great job. The detent's fine. That rear flipper is probably my favorite way to deploy it back here, right? This sort of low profile corner flipper type, it works just fine. You can also light switch it. And what about that hole there, Metal Complex? Can't you use that? Yeah, you can. You got to dig at it a little bit. Fortunately, that fuller runs all the way down, and there's just enough of a ledge that you can kind of do the reverse flick. Not quite enough to where it's satisfying. You can also sort of thumb flick it out. Either way, if you're going to thumb flick it or you're going to reverse flick it, if that's how you like to open it, right? I'm not saying this that everybody has to be able to do that with their knives in order for them to be good. If you choose to do that, you'll be slightly irritated by the fact that the ledge just isn't ledgy enough and the hole just isn't holy enough. That's a stupid way to say that. The cutout here just needs to be a little bit bigger, right? And then on the front side, this maybe bigger and scalloped so that you have better access because it's just a hard drop off, right? But you can ignore that and just deploy it with the, flipper tab back here. So really, yeah, the action's pretty good, right? If you just find a different mechanism to use. And this is like a hard lead. Well, it's not, it's knocked down a little bit, but there's access to it more importantly, right? Now, if you're going to disengage that and let it drop to your finger, you are going to get nothing but blade right on your fingernail, right? I always like it when you can catch it in a spot that's not blade. But you can sort of kind of turn it sideways, disengage it, get your finger out of the way, and then let it drop if you choose to disengage your knives that way. Of course, the safest way is to disengage it and hold onto the blade with your other hand and then close it. But there you go. Depending on who you are, some of that or all of that might be useful to you. Carry profile, thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's about the same. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. It's kind of like part of this is an oval and the other end is a rectangle, right? I mean, it carries similarly, I guess, to the PM2. That's what it makes me think of. It's going to be a little heavier, though, because of the titanium. Standard PM2 doesn't come in titanium. It's nowhere near as tall as either. Let's go ahead and get a hardware check. Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. Let's see here. Is that a T8? Yes, it is. Okay. The pivot is almost certainly a T8, yes. And then we have T8 body screws and a T8 lock bar insert screw, which is great. You'll never have to get into that. But we don't have any hardware showing on this side, which means these screws go all the way through, and there's just 2 of them, which is pretty cool. I mean, there's just a couple of screws in the pivot. Really easy to take apart and put back together. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Get out my scale here real quick. We have titanium. We have S35VN. And then a titanium pocket clip. Really not a whole lot going on here, but definitely nice materials. Overall weight is about 3.99 ounces. We're going to do that again because this scale's a little bit goofy sometimes. Okay, about 4 ounces. Not bad. That's about what I expected. The balance on this knife is a little bit back of the pivot, right? Whole thing is thrown off by the fact that the blade is so short relative to the handle. But yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with any of that there. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness of this knife. My guess is it's about 115 to 120 thousandths. It's just my best guess there. Come on now, let's zero out. No, there we go. All right, thinner than I thought, unless I grabbed the wrong part there. Let's try it right here. It looks to be about the same. No, we got to make sure that that's zeroed out all the way. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, it's actually a lot thinner than I thought. Okay, 107 thousandths. Meat and potatoes time. Wow, this is a weird looking knife. It's not the first time that I've seen weird, almost mismatched handle with long utility razor coming out of it like that. It seems to occur fairly often, right? It's a weird looking knife, but like specifically this weird look surfaces a lot, it seems like, in the knife world. I mean, this is a common blade shape. It's just an extended utility blade, horn clip, whatever you want to call it, right? It's got a fuller and sort of a teardrop there. There's nothing wrong with this design, and whether or not something is aesthetically pleasing is extremely subjective, and I am aware of that, right? But I have to assume you guys watch my channel because you want to hear my opinion. So my opinion on this knife is that if this were my only option to carry and use daily, I would be fine with it because it works really well. The blade shape is nice, right? It's a little bit of a fuller here, but not, I mean, the ledges here are not sharp enough to really gather material or anything like that. There's nothing in the cutting path. I can get my finger up here and do draw cuts, right? It's reasonably comfortable. The pocket clip, I can feel it a little bit, but it's not a long clip, right? Not much of a choke up spot, but you can get back there. The jimping is pretty much useless. It's there, but it's pretty much useless. But really, getting this thing out and using it like a knife, yeah, it'll work, right? I mean, it's not that far off from a lot of other knife designs that I felt. There's nothing really spectacular in terms of the ergonomics or the blade shape or the blade geometry, right? Cutting edge is about medium, but it'll do the trick. It can poke, it can slice. It's easy to manipulate. In and out of the pocket is fine. It's just not a very good looking knife. And I think it's a couple of things that are keeping me from thinking that. Again, if you like how this looks, that's perfectly fine because this is all completely subjective. The handle doesn't look like it goes with the blade, and the blade is also very, very short relative to the handle, making it that much weirder, right? Now, what I find is aesthetically unappealing. I'm sure plenty of people will find it extremely appealing for the exact same reason, right? It's not necessarily a universal thing. It's just odd. There are lots of different parts of this knife that don't really seem to fit any particular theme. We have a line that runs into another, like it's not following any particular line. It's just like there's just another rectangle that sort of splits the difference there. And I guess this line here splits the difference of this rectangle. Maybe that was intentional. I don't know. But it's just, if you were to show me just the handle, I don't think I would expect this blade. And if you were to show me just the blade, I don't think I would expect this handle. I don't know what I was expecting, but there you go, right? And it highlights other areas that just seem to be kind of random. I mean, like these three lines here. So I don't know. I mean, as a tool, it's fine. But, I am a design reviewer, so little elements like that definitely stick out to me. And this is just very odd. It's not bad. It's just very odd. So yeah, I find the black wash finish to be extremely boring. Admittedly, I didn't look to see if there were other variants of this. Kizer doesn't always do the multiple variation thing. Maybe there is. I think that this would look a little bit better in all stone washed, but that's a personal preference, right? So maybe if you like the all black look, then there you go. This one's all black. So, anyways, moving on here, we have a pocket clip that I find this irritating even as a right-handed person. The way that they did this is really cool because it wraps around and it goes into the butt of the knife. You could have easily done the exact same thing on the other side without creating any eyesores, right? The filler tab thing or the cutout thing, right? Could have done it on the other side. All you would have had to do is make a symmetrical clip so that it could be flipped over. But instead, we just did this, and lefties are completely left out, which is a bummer. The clip itself is fine. It's a really pretty tight clip. It is technically it'd have to be milled because of the bill end here. It's fine. In and out of the pocket is fine. No issues there. Super duper deep, so nothing really shows at all. We have a lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop as expected. We have an internal stop pin, I believe, or interesting. What is locking the blade? Oh, it's in there. Man, that thing is buried. I just couldn't see it. Yeah. It's got there's no way to just depend on the lock face to lock the blade out. It needs a second point of contact. In this case, we have two lugs attached to the blade, and they're riding on channels on either side of the titanium. So they stop at the end of those channels, and then they lock the blade out in coordination with the lock bar here. I just couldn't see them. They're kind of hard to see on camera, but they're definitely in there. The knife runs on bearings, but you probably could have guessed. So as far as lockout goes, there's your lockup geometry, about what we expect. Kizer does a good frame lock. No blade play, up, down, left to right. No lock stick. No pivot latch. Actually, there's a teeny tiny, surprises me. I don't usually get that from Kizer. Am I going back and forth? Nope, I'm not imagining it. It's a tiny, microscopic amount. Doesn't really matter. It's just a way for me to check micro tolerances, I guess. It won't affect the functionality, the life of the blade, or anything like that. Very smooth in here, and a nice clicky detent. I think the blade's perfectly centered. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, there you go. You can see it. Man, just really shortened up the cutting edge to make room for this area back here. Odd. I'm not sure about that. It's an odd looking knife. Fortunately, the cherry on top for this model is the price for the materials and the build quality, right? And I mean, like I said, it's not an uncomfortable thing to hold, use, deploy. It's a little bit awkward to do the reverse flick, but it'll make a good tool, right? And the materials, titanium and S35EN, that's great. $149. The price isn't bad. It's just really weird. I feel like this isn't the knife that I would jump to recommend, like the average person looking to spend $150. If you are looking in that $100 to $150 zone, you should definitely be looking at Kizer. Absolutely. So they have a lot of different choices. I'm just not sure that this would be the one. But if you're looking at this and you're like, I don't mind the look. In fact, I think it looks really, really cool. That, excuse me, you will very much enjoy the build quality of this, and you'll definitely enjoy it as a tool. So I'm trying to be fair here. It's just this doesn't really sync up with my personal preferences, but that doesn't mean that other people can't enjoy it. So yeah, I mean, if this were like $200, I'd have been like, pass. But man, $149 is not a bad price. Kizer, I think is doing a good job with their pricing. That's really all I have to say about this. It's just kind of an oddball model. Nothing against the designer at all. Again, it's totally subjective. But that's going to be pretty much it today from me. I'll link this guy down in the description. Thanks again to Kizer for sending it in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.